Um, I, for some time, have been wanting folks to meet Cindy Blythe. And the reason is that Cindy is our national secretary-treasurer, um, and sort of came out of nowhere and became the person in the position. Anyway, I don't know a whole lot about you, so you'd probably start by just telling us about yourself and your career and all that sort of stuff, just so that people have a sense of the person you are.
Okay, well, I'm born and raised in Kansas.
Wow.
Like most people in the rural areas, I have come back to the area and am only 20 miles from where I was born and raised. So my home now that my husband and I have is only 20 miles from my home place.
Wow.
So I am very comfortable in my little rural area and feel quite comfortable at home. So I actually began my career because both of my parents were federal employees. My mother, of course, on the um, office side, my father on the, out in the wilderness type side. So my mom always would tell me, as my sisters and I were growing up, that the federal government was a good place to go to work. It was a good job. It was solid. If you stayed with it through retirement, which that's what you try to talk your kids into, that you would have very good benefits on the back end. And you wouldn't necessarily have to travel for a government job. You could get one pretty close to home, and you could probably stay at that agency until you retired. So when I was in high school, my mom said, you really ought to see about getting a summer job with the government.
Mm.
And so I went over and applied at what was then the Agriculture Stabilization and Conservation Service, or ASCS, which is now Farm Services Agency. I applied for a summer job, and the job was, the only thing it did was measuring the fields and reporting the acreage for the farmers for all of those government programs that they offer to the farmers. So the farmers would come in, I would sit down with them, we would pull up the map of their property, and with a colored pencil, I was drawing lines around and this. Um, and of course, being a farm kid myself, I knew a lot of these farmers coming in. So I really I enjoyed it. It was my first big job. And, it gave me a real sense of helping, which, that's really the heart of a civil servant, is to help and provide assistance to somebody and feel better that you did it. So I continued to get summer jobs through my high school and through my first years in college. Uh, a summer job was pretty easy to come by, and one summer I worked for the Corps of Engineers they called us a park tech. I went around to all the campers and collected their camping fees. So it was another chance to get out. I had a government truck. I drove everywhere, but you pulled up to a camper, you knocked, um, for me, and a lot of people won't know this, and even when I tell you this, they won't see it. I'm really not an extroverted person. I'm really an introvert. But I guess I can really fake people out by meeting people and offering up of myself and stuff. So being a park ranger, was real easy for me to go up and talk talk to the campers, and every now and then you got invited for supper, every now and then you got invited for lunch, so I ate a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers, and had a lot of fun that summer when all that was over. So when it came to time to look at, I really needed a career job. I went and I took the test, the clerk typist test, and got hired on in a temporary position with the Coast Guard. Of all places, the Coast Guard in Topeka, Kansas. The Coast Guard had moved from Riverdale, Maryland to Topeka, Kansas in 1989. And so I got on there as a temporary, and actually had to move over to the VA, to the Veterans Administration Hospital, to get a permanent job. I couldn't get on permanent with the Coast Guard, so I went over and I spent a few years of my federal career with the VA, and then was finally able to get back to the Coast Guard, and then spent the rest of my years at the Coast Guard. I retired with 35 and a half years of government service. Bought back my all my little summer jobs, so I bought that time back, and I was, of course, I was real good with my sick leave. So, I ended up with 35 and a half years. So I retired in January of 2018. And that's when I decided that I needed to see about being a little more involved with the upper leadership of NARFE. So I was a federation president for the state of Kansas for 11 years while I was an active employee. So it can be done. And I would tell anybody it can be done. A chapter president, a lot of people think, is a very ominous position. It's not. Pass around what you want to do. Don't expect to do everything yourself. And it's a great position to work up into. Then when Carol Eck, the Region 5 Vice President, was ready to retire, I jumped right in and ran and was elected for the Region 5 Vice President. So I went through the 7 states that are in Region 5, and was an RVP for 6 years, that's your basic term limit. And then decided to run for National Secretary-Treasurer. So, and was really excited to be voted in as the National Secretary-Treasurer. Of the leadership positions, I've got to say it's my favorite so far. So, there's Martha's laughing at me, I know, because there is a lot to learn and there is a lot to do, but I enjoy every single minute of it, even the aggravation that comes from some of the members and some of the emails and some of the stuff. I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's basically my background. Okay. I have a couple things I would just like to jump on, just to let you know before I get into what I'm doing, what my work, the duties that I'm working on right now of my position, and what future projects, and last but not least, maybe what my vision for NARFE may be. We just got some new membership numbers. So these are, as of September, we have 128,543 members. 73,835 of those are national members. 54,708 of them are chapter members. So when we talk about chapters are closing, they are, and that's that is something we have to deal with. But stop to think, there's 54,000, almost 55,000 members that belong to chapters. And when I looked at that number, that's a phenomenal number. So, yes, we're having trouble with chapters, but on the other hand, we do have a good chapter base. You know, members do like chapters, and so we do have a good chapter base. Our NARFE Magazine, which is all of our members say is one of the main benefits that they enjoy their membership, was recently awarded the Eddie Award, which recognizes the best editorial content across associations, nonprofits, consumers, and business publications. A lot goes into that magazine. As a matter of fact, Matt Sanderson, who is the one that puts all of that together, just sent me the must be November issue for me to edit. So Matt puts it all together, gets all the input from everybody at national headquarters, Bill's statement and everything, puts it all together and sends it out to both Bill and I and our senior staff, and all of us do the edits on it. So it's I kind of laugh because all these years that I was a NARFE member, I never really read my magazine. You know,
It's
let,
interesting.
yeah, let me tell you, since being elected as Secretary-Treasurer, I have read every word in every magazine so far that has been published since January of 2025. Or so I'm really finding out there is a lot of good coming out of that magazine because I'm reading every single word of it. So, but for NARFE Magazine to get that award, it is just phenomenal. We actually sent Matt to New York for the awarding, and so he was there to accept the award, and he was there, had some pictures taken of him and everything. So, we actually competed with more than 1,300 entries to get that award. So that is really kudos for NARFE and the staff to get an award like that. Recently, you heard, I'm sure, if you didn't see or receive the information about the financial direct deposit, and I've got to say, I'm sorry for any confusion. A lot of chapters and some federations were wondering, well, you know, do we need to send you a new form? You know, why would we ever be worried about this? And you know, so we had to come back and tell them the only time that you would need to actually send that form now is if you make a new account. If you change your bank, you know, then you need to send in the actual form. NARFE is not going to take that financial information over email or phone anymore. And the reason we're not going to is because we almost got caught in a scam. NARFE National did. We had a new vendor, and the new vendor turned in an invoice. We paid that invoice, and that was fine. Well, they had another invoice for us. We got the invoice from the vendor, and it was paid. Then it was caught that somebody had changed the routing and the information to their own account. So our finance department was able to get the payment stopped. NARFE didn't lose any money, but all of a sudden it was, hey, we've got to change what we're doing because we can't afford to be caught like that again. So that's why that came about. It was to keep NARFE from having any issues again. You know, the scammers are getting way smarter than we are. So we've got to try to do everything that we can. Of course, you know, NARFE just passed our annual audit, and it was kind of ironic because this scam happened after our audit, which we got a clean audit and everything, but not even our auditing company that we use, the agency that we use, could have told us that, hey, you need to change these procedures in order so you don't get caught. So as far as NARFE was going, we were doing everything right. It was just that there was some scammer out there that was just a little bit smarter than what we were going to be. So we changed our procedures so we wouldn't get caught again. The Federation's officers are able to use Informz, which is a software program that headquarters uses for the region vice presidents to send out emails to all the members in their region. And so we've opened that up for the Federation presidents to be able to use that. So if you have a message that you want to send out to all your members, you can send that to headquarters, and headquarters will take the information that you send them, make it all nice and pretty and everything, and then push it out to your members when they can schedule it. So if you need some more information about that, I saw John Almquist on here earlier, so reach out to John and ask him so he can help you with that, or reach out to my office if you need some instructions or need some help with it. I'll be glad to help you. NARFE, our strategic planning committee, of which Pauline is a member, is going to be working on creating a 501c3 branch for NARFE. That has been a member requested issue for some time. So the Strategic Planning Committee is actually doing a great deal of work to see how that can happen and what procedures and processes need to happen, what forms need to be filled out. Then it will also be the board of directors for the 3C, and then we'll start looking at the expenses that NARFE has and some of the incomes, how those will be switched over to the C3 so that we can get a tax break on them. So all that is going to be coming. It's obviously not a project that is going to be very quickly done, but I don't know. Pauline might disagree with me, but I would say within a year and a half that will be up and running. So I think we can say that and feel pretty confident that will happen. Of course, it all depends on the IRS and all the forms and everything else that we have to fill out. So don't go to the calendar and write down Cindy said in a year and a half, you know. Right now, from September the 1st through December the 31st, we have the recruiting reward going on, and you can get $10 for any new members that you recruit. Okay, and then you'll also get the 2025 recruiters pin. We all, of course, know that the government shutdown is still up and very strong right now. NARFE has sent a letter to the Hill under Bill's signature, trying to ask them to let's come together and get this taken care of. John Hatton has done several radio interviews and some TV interviews. He did an interview with CNN. It was supposed to view Monday night, but it's been, I understand it's been pushed back. It was supposed to be on this afternoon, and it's still been pushed back. So I haven't gotten any latest of when it's going to air, but as soon as it does, we'll put something out so everybody can see it, and then you can watch what John had to tell them. So, okay. As far as the Secretary-Treasurer's, rather than jump into duties, let's see, you've got 25 participants on here. Has anybody got a question for me before I jump into what the Secretary-Treasurer is supposed to be doing?
I enjoyed your discussion at the beginning about how you got into government, how you saw government, how public service was honored. And I guess that's the issue I see in front of all of us, in front of all the people who have worked. I feel good about what I did, and I'm being made to feel not so good, or at least not recognized as having done anything particularly good.
Well, the situation, I worked for the Coast Guard. So a lot of the people when they, when I say I worked for the Coast Guard, they say, "Oh, you were in the Coast Guard? What rank were you?" And then I have to explain, no, I was a civilian employee working for a military agency, you
Yeah.
know. I have to say that when they talk about the military and how the military is honored, and how people that go into the military feel about their careers. Even though I was a civilian, I still kind of have that same feeling that great and right, the Coast Guard is different. Although a lot of people don't know, the Coast Guard was actually the agency that put the soldiers on Normandy Beach and everything on D-Day. It was the Coast Guard that took those soldiers in there. So, the Coast Guard is not necessarily in front of the fire, not like the Army, not like the Navy, but their service is no less, and what they do is no less. And so when somebody tells me, what agency did you work for? I am very proud to say I worked for the U.S. Coast Guard. You're right, Jerry. Right now, government employees are feeling the sting of being unappreciated. And I'm not sure how to help with that. NARFE as an organization, we can only promote that we can help you and this is what we can do for you, but we can't make an individual feel better about what they're doing. I don't know how to help someone have a better sense of service in what they're doing. I think most people join the federal government to perform a service and to feel like they are helping and doing something that has overall the big picture, is a help for the country. But right now, I agree with you. Federal employees that are active and on the front lines right now, I don't think they feel grateful at all. That it's just the way they're treated. Not that their job is insignificant. However, I have to admit that I think when Doge came through, they made a lot of people feel very insignificant.
Yeah, I guess it goes beyond, that what I mean, I told you the feelings kind of thing, but ultimately, if we're a leader in regard to issues that affect federal workers and federal retirees, and that's what we're committed to, then I think our focus has to be to send a different message, to get a message out there that it's actually sort of interesting. One of the unions that, of course, has been eliminated, NTEU. I was always admirable in regard to their ads. I don't know. They must have had quite a budget because I would hear them on the radio and even see them on TV once in a while. Uh, and it was all about the good things that federal workers are doing. And I think even in your discussion this morning, you talked about the good things that you were doing in your job. And, I can talk about the good things that I was doing in my job. And of course, that makes me still feel like I accomplished things, but it does irritate me. I'm more in the irritation stage now, I think, that it's been belittled and it's been categorized, and it was actually posted in some of the proclamations that came out about we will eliminate this or we will eliminate it because of everyone knows that it's basically not being done properly, and that there's surplus waste, fraud, all kinds of crap, and so to me, there's an in here for NARFE to do something. I just saw a new lawsuit we got involved in. I think that's something, okay? But I also think that, it may be short-sighted to be spending lots of money on trying to get new members in by directly asking them to be members. And that maybe, by us doing things that talk about the good things that federal workers are doing, which, by the way, here in San Francisco this past week, we celebrated the Coast Guard. And we're very dependent on the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And so, and we do that every year. And so that means something to the Coast Guard. I'm sure that San Francisco celebrates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm looking at how do we as an organization begin to celebrate federal employees and the good they do and the accomplishments, and maybe that's the recruitment tool we need, is what I'm really saying. Is
So
that
Jerry,
maybe it isn't about, trying to figure out how to recruit people per se by, going to a health fair or whatever. It's something about what we're doing as an organization that will recruit. And as I say, I knew about NTEU. I knew I wasn't going to be an NTEU person because I wasn't in, I was no longer even in the federal government. But is there a way that we can refocus on the goodness of public service? And
so Jerry, this
yeah,
is Pauline. I was thinking, what we could do is talk about the fact that, are you happy that you get your mail delivered every day? Are you happy
I know. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
And that's what I'm thinking, is that's the campaign, so that it uplifts the current workers.
Yeah.
That the work you're doing is important. It's important that our meat is inspected. It's important that our dairy is,
or that workers get paid wages like I did. Yeah.
But it also, I think, makes the public aware of all the things that government employees do, but we don't brag about.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that we do that people, like measuring the acreage, nobody thinks about that. But it's important to the farmers, and the farmers grow food, and we need food. So I think we can put the messages. NARFE is supporting. Actually, one of the slogans I've seen in the NARFE ad is "NARFE is here for you." NARFE is here. And I think that's what we need to tell federal employees, that we're here. We're here to help you. We want to advocate on your behalf, blah, blah, blah.
But we need to be seen as doing some things, okay?
Yeah.
And if we're not doing things, but just saying, no, join us, then I think that we're missing out on this opportunity at this point in time to say, you really need federal workers. Federal workers have been doing great jobs for years. Federal workers have committed their lives for not a lot of money, actually for less money, in order because they believe in that service, because
Right.
their lives were not governed just by money. Their lives were governed by how do I
Service.
help the country that I live in?
Right. So could I redirect the conversation? Because I'm very curious about what Cindy does every day. And what does the national secretary do? I mean, do you write checks all day? What do you do?
Could I just add that I put in the chat a link to the Anthem for Federal Workers? And if you haven't heard that, you've got to listen to that. It is a wonderful thing. So you can save your chat and check it out later. Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay. Pauline, it's funny because every day, the first thing I do is turn on my computer, of course, I have a NARFE computer now. Remember, I am in Kansas. I'm in Kansas working. I have a NARFE computer which hooks right back to the office, so I'm basically in the office all the time. But the first thing I do is I turn on my computer and I go through all the emails that come in and I try to answer everybody on the same day that they send me something. I must admit, I don't always get my RVPs answered back that same day, but sometimes I just don't want to deal with them. So,
What kind
yeah.
of questions do you get from members?
I still get a lot of my spouse died, what do I do calls, and I still take those calls. From members, of course, I got a lot when we had to change the finance, so I got a lot of things from that. I tell you, one big project is the IRS 990s and the chapters losing their tax exempt status. So I get a lot of calls from them. I get a lot of emails from them about, I lost my status. How do I do that? So John Almquist and I work a lot together on that. Jen and Nora keep me appraised of everything that goes on in their sections. And so, there's other things that like Jen's office takes care of, IT side, AMS side. Jen is also doing the non-dues revenue stuff, trying to reach out to get us companies that will join us and pay us for, to advertise and what have you. So I try to help Jan when she's got a question that maybe needs a little more weight thrown behind it. National Secretary-Treasurer looks better than director, yada yada yada. So it's not that I have any really more clout or even know, but sometimes just throwing it out there, they kind of set up and take notice. I get financial questions, budgeting questions, matching funds questions. So which matching funds comes from Nora's side. So, we try to take care of that. And then the RVPs because they're on the front lines with the members, they keep me informed on what's going on in their regions and stuff that they're working on with their chapters and what have you. So, and then there's the publications that NARFE has. Those all fall under the Secretary-Treasurer. So, I have mentioned before that it is on my to-do list to go through every one of those publications that we have, make sure that they are updated. Stuff like OPM or OAM is removed and stuff like that. And then if anything, if a publication does not need to be updated, but it hasn't been, say it has a 2018 date on it, we need to at least put 2025 on it so that anybody who uses it knows that it has been looked at and it's ready. This is reliable information. So that's that. And of course, this is all between learning what this position did. So I'm also in the background working on this nice little notebook that here's how you do this, and here's how you do this, and here's how you do this. And oh, by the way, be sure and do this, this, and this when you first get into office, because you have to. So so I'm trying to do that too. Whether I will be successful in getting all that done, remains to be seen. So
Are you getting any of that online as opposed to hard copy?
well, right now it's basically I just grab it when I think about it and write it down, and then I will do it on
Yeah.
a document of some, whether it's on just a Word doc or whatever, but it will be where somebody can get it. The next person will have it online.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably, I mean, I will admit I'm sure it was something that was needed for a long time. I mean, I know that when Catherine was elected, I don't know that she got really anything substantial to say this is what you needed to do. So it's this issue has been a long time coming. It just needed to have somebody who thought they could do it and the other job and the other duties at the same time. And some days I do a lot. Some days I'm like, oh man, I need to rest. So so I'll kind of touch a little bit on a vision for NARFE, or where I would like to see NARFE go. It is a known fact that our chapters and our federations are struggling. Some chapters are very strong and very good, and those that are very active, I salute you because you've done an excellent job. Those that are wavering and those that are having trouble, we do need to close them and merge them. And I don't say that because I don't believe in chapter membership, because I do. But NARFE cannot afford to continue to support an organizational structure for 128,000 people that only 54,000 people are using. And I'm sure you can see where I'm coming from. We've had several conversations about how would be the best way to do this. If I could, I would give every active federal employee a free NARFE membership. It would be totally online. So in other words, they would get the magazine, but it would be a digital copy of the magazine. So right there would be no expense to push out more written magazines, no more expense for mailing, but we would have a whole bunch of people that would have access to one of the best magazines in the world. Okay. What we could do then is then focus on those members in that 3 to 5 year sweet spot of retirement. Okay. If you're 24 years old and you get the NARFE magazine, you might not read it right now. Okay. If you've got 10 years in your career and you're looking towards retirement and you're saying, okay, I've got 10 years now. If I do 10 more years, I'll have 20 years and I can retire. You're going to start looking at, what do I need to do to maximize that last 10 years so my retirement is what I want it to be. Okay. Then you're going to start reading the NARFE magazine, because Now we're putting in, you're getting every month the question and answers, the financial expertise, the job expertise, and everything that's in that magazine. So we have allowed them to see the benefit of the membership before we tell them, okay, you're going to retire. Now you're going to have to pay for your membership. If you want to continue to get the magazine, if you want to continue to get that financial planning, if you want to continue to take advantage of the benefits that NARFE membership gives you, now's when you're going to have to start paying for it. And I feel that if we have taught those individuals the benefit of that NARFE membership, that we can get them to join and then keep them. Right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get new members that don't know anything about the organization, and they haven't had the experience of the benefits that NARFE has. So now there's how that could all work, since OPM won't give us any information. How do we do that? Do we put some smart thinkers in a room and try to come up with, can NARFE itself develop some coalition partners with some, like our military who hires civilians, or the Postal Service who is made up of civilians, or all these other government agencies? Can we develop something to be able to give everybody memberships? Or, how do we just advertise, you get a free membership? What I would like to do, if it would be at all possible, is to get together with OPM and say, hey, every new employee that's hired, give them an automatic NARFE email and tell them you're a member and here's the page you need to go to sign up. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. That might work in a perfect world. It might not, but that's what I would like to see. There has been talk about, well, why don't we make everybody a chapter member, regardless of whether they want to be or not? That has pros, it has cons. Okay. We know right now we have 73,000, almost 74,000 national members. I do not like the word national only member, because to me, it seems like it almost has a negative connotation to it.
It is.
You're national only? No, we all belong to a national organization. We are all national members. So I like to call them national members. I don't like to, to me, we have national members and we have chapter members. Why call them a national only? Of which I happen to be a national only member. But, but the pros and cons of just automatically signing people up to a chapter is, if I had my way, chapters would have 0 dues. And then if you sign someone up to a chapter, they pay their national dues and that's it. If we automatically sign people up as a chapter, now we expect them to pay the national dues and a chapter due. Well, that person doesn't want to be a chapter. Maybe they don't want to pay that additional $12 or whatever. So my worry is that if we sign everybody up as a chapter member, we are going to aggravate over 50% of our new members.
I have not heard anyone advocating that.
Well,
I think the opposite is they're advocating that members be automatically enrolled in chapters, but you can always unenroll. You don't have to remain a chapter. You can switch chapters. But I think the big push is, do we have one price of membership for everybody in NARFE and allow them to join a chapter or not?
Yeah, I think it's more about they're allowed.
Yeah. My feeling is this way, Martha. I don't believe that chapters should have to pay a per capita to exist.
That's it. That's
I do
exactly
not
it.
believe that they need to pay the federations to exist. So if you do away with the per capita, what do you need chapter dues for?
Every member should pay for chapters, supporting chapters, because chapters power the association. So just like taxes, we all pay taxes whether we get the direct benefit or not. I think it's the same thing. We all pay one national dues, and then you can either take extra benefit of being a chapter member, because when you think about it, the benefit being a chapter member is being dedicated to supporting other people and to work with other people. So it's chapter members who are agreeing to do extra work. So we should not punish them by having to pay extra also. We should all be supporting chapters. You need people to get together as chapters to be effective politically, certainly, educationally, any kind of way. Societies depend on association where you agree to work with someone else. And we should not punish people by charging extra.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I don't, I don't, I really don't feel like the chapters should have to be paying the federations to exist. And that's why in the beginning, most of the chapters had dues, is because the federations charge them $1, and a half or whatever per member to exist. So if you didn't have dues, you didn't have any money to pay the federations.
So Cindy, do you
Uh-huh.
know if the membership, there's a national membership committee that's looking at, some of these questions that you're talking about and Martha's raised. Do you know if they've considered that? I know they've looked at one fee, one flat amount for everybody joining the chapter, but do you know if they've talked about doing away with the per capita dues, which to me makes sense because then you don't need chapter dues. Then you don't have to worry about different level.
Pauline, I don't sit in on the membership advisory
They
committee
have.
meetings.
I have. I have.
And
I
don't.
they, Martha?
They have talked about it. They decided they don't want to raise the issue at this point in time. So they're going to go about it incrementally. And
Yeah.
and I'm not supposed to share what I know, which I don't agree with. I don't
Otherwise, I'll have to kill
understand.
you. So
Yeah.
But the bottom line is sometimes you bite the bullet and you do it, whether it makes your neighbor mad or not. You bite the bullet and you do it. Yes, we're going to lose some members. If we make a decision like something like this, there are some that are going to be mad and they're going to quit. Well, that's their loss, But sometimes you just got to say, we're going to do it and deal with the consequences. Not, well, we're afraid to upset anybody, so we're not going to do it. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what NARFE has done. We don't want to upset our members. We're worried about them.
You got to look at the big picture, and the big picture is you cannot punish people for doing the work of NARFE. And as long as the people are willing to do the work of NARFE, they should all pay one price, get all the benefits. All the benefits are available in FedHub. You can read any chapter information that you want. You can attend any chapter meeting. There's no reason to pay extra to be a member of a chapter. So reimburse all the chapters for whatever expenses they need. Reimburse the federations and
we have
support them.
Headquarters. We have been talking to a couple other associations that are interested in joining their membership with NARFE membership. I won't tell you who it is. Unfortunately, my opinion, and I'm only one person on the discussion, but my opinion is this one association, they have a lot of liabilities. What they want is us to take their liabilities. They just want us to buy them out of debt is what they want. That's not going to happen. Yeah, that is not going to happen. But their comments to us have been, you guys are crazy. You're only charging $48. Our dues are like 180 to 200. And we don't even give them half the benefits that NARFE does. So at some point in time, whether this makes our membership happy or not, we are going to have to raise the dues, and they're going to have to be, I think they ought to start at $100. And if you want to offer a 2-year, then it's going to be, on from that. But a baseline membership should start at $100 and then go from there. Yeah, that's going to upset a lot of members. That's good. But we already know right now that every single month NARFE falls in the negative because it costs us more to service a member than what our monthly membership is covering. So
Jerry and Cindy, it's almost 2:00. I don't know if you want to continue the discussion or there are particular issues you want to have covered,
Well,
or
I
do you
think
want to
if there,
open up
you know, I
the
think if
questions
there's
and
if
answers?
there's people here who have been listening and want to have a question, you and I tend to talk because we tend to talk. But and Cindy's supposed to be talking.
actually, I don't have anything else. I mean, I gave you my kind of vision.
Yeah, no, I think
If we continue, if NARFE continues with the organizational structure the way it's going now, and we don't do anything, chapters are going to go away.
yeah.
That's the way it's going to be. And when the chapters go away, the federations are going away. So rather than just try to put the fire out with a little tiny garden hose, I think we need to attack the whole thing and, cover it with dirt and let's start something else. So is anyone at NARFE an organizational change expert? That's a question from Joel. Well, I will tell you, Joel, I'm definitely not an organizational change expert.
But I think it's a very salient point, which is that change is extremely complex, and particularly an organization that's more than 100 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you're being dragged down by your own history and your own structures that you've created, and yet you want to continue to exist. I think that's a huge challenge. And I think it does make good sense. I'm not a big fan of outside experts, however. I do believe sometimes, people are just out to make money. But there certainly are some people who actually want to help. And so it would be interesting to try and find somebody like that. But I mean, I think it's a good idea, actually, Joel. I like your idea.
NARFE has a little issue in that the way we're formed and the way we're incorporated, with the membership having a hand in things, there are instances where NARFE has actually handicapped itself as an organization.
Yeah.
So when we start thinking about an organizational change and that, it's going to, I mean, we're talking about, we're going to have to look at not just the structure of NARFE, but, what did we do in our bylaws that have held us that we can't do something that we need to do?
Right.
So it's going to be an undertaking that's not going to happen very quickly. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anybody have another comment or question they want before we close down? I don't like to keep you too long, but very appreciative, Cindy, for you taking the time. I know because you don't, you're obviously busy.
Talk about your farm. What crops and what animals?
Okay.
I'm from Kansas.
Okay. Well, first of all, my husband is a large animal veterinarian. So he's has his own business. He works off the farm. So my husband and we have over 400 acres that we own, and then we have several hundred more that we lease and okay. We raise cattle for our crop, and I have goats. So we have cattle and goats and one horse, only one horse.
How much cattle?
Probably around 200 head.
Okay.
And it is a cow-calf operation. So we're not a background. In other words, we're not feeding them to butcher. We're, we got the bulls, we're raising the little calves, and then we're selling them.
And you're not milking.
No.
How many goats?
I've got between 50 and 75, maybe.
Oh my God.
And no, I don't milk goats either. My goats are all meat goats. So, so when they go to market, somebody eats them. I don't eat them, but somebody does.
You grow up. Okay, cool.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, I don't milk unless I just absolutely have to.
And you're not a wheat farmer?
No.
Sorghum?
Most of our property is in grass.
Okay.
We do put up hay, brome hay and prairie hay, for the cows and stuff. My husband likes to do a little bit of dirt farming. He is not a farmer, and he's really not very good at it. And I love the man to death, but he's not a good farmer. He's really not. He just, as you know, farming takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, he just doesn't have all that time to spend, but he does plant sorghum silage. And so we have 4 little patches. One of them's only a 10-acre patch, and the other one's like 15. And so they're not very large acres. But, he gets the feeling of dirt under his fingers. He gets out on the tractor. And, he gets to plant, and he feels real good until he ran over himself with the tractor. Then he didn't feel real good. But, so we don't really farm, but he plays in the dirt a little bit. Okay. So that's what our farm is. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming again, Cindy. It's refreshing to hear some different points of view. It's also an opportunity for us to all sort of think some more about the future of NARFE, because I do think it is something in front of us. I think it also gets all of us to think about how do we be more effective to defend the federal workforce from this denigration that sort of has been going on.
Well, the one thing I think about NARFE is yes, we need new members. And I'm real bad. I'm not a very good recruiter myself, but I believe that what I need to do as a former federal employee is, like you said, Jerry, help the current federal employees feel good about what they're doing. And I think that is a way that you can use your NARFE knowledge and your NARFE membership to help a struggling federal employee. That's the way I look at it. I joined NARFE, like I said. My parents were both NARFE members. They were actually instrumental in starting a chapter and starting my local chapter, which I had to close several years ago. But and my mother, her and Dad were going to the meetings and what have you, and my mom says, "Honey, why don't you come to a NARFE meeting?" Well, it was a 50-mile one-way trip for me to go to a NARFE meeting, and I really didn't want to drive 50 miles for supper, but because my mom asked me, I went. I walked in, and of course, they introduced me to all these people they knew through, NARFE and all that. And it was, we got a new member, how would you like to be the president? I looked at
That happened
my
to me.
mom. Yeah, I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, why do I want to join an organization of old farts? And that's exactly the way I put it. Why do I? And she looked right at me and she says, Honey, you expect to retire from the government, don't you? And I said, Well, yeah, I don't plan on quitting, and she says, Who do you think fights for your benefits as a federal employee? NARFE is the one that does that. I said, Okay, Mom, I pay my dues. So that's what I
Okay.
tell. That's what I tell people.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone who came and participated, and thanks again, Cindy. Appreciate the time you spent with us.